Hey everybody, it's Mr. Conway, and I'm going to do a video for Unit 5, States of Consciousness. I have a pretty good feeling I'll be able to do this in two videos, the whole unit. I'm going to focus on consciousness, sleep, dreams, and a little bit of dissociation in this video, and then I'm going to save the next video for the effects of drugs. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit. If you're kind of following along in the book, I do want to start with the definition of consciousness. Now, this is probably not going to be ever a question on the test, but in order to understand this unit, you do need to know what the word consciousness means. And it means to be aware of ourselves and our surroundings. So obviously when we are awake, we are typically going to say that we are conscious. And the big thing for this is when we are asleep, or if we are on any kind of psychoactive drug, that can affect our consciousness. The book does go through hypnosis, but we're going to leave that alone because that's not really tested anymore. So I want to start with actually a word from the hypnosis part, and that is if you go to 5B hypnosis in your ebook, and we go to, let's see, is it explaining the hypnotized state? Yeah. So if we go to 5.2.2, explaining the hypnotized state, I want to start off with the word where it says hypnosis as divided consciousness. This is going to be a super important concept for later in the course, and that is the concept of dissociation. Dissociation means to have a split in your consciousness. Okay, dissociation, to dissociate. Anytime you see any kind of form of that word, it means to split in consciousness. So that means that our awareness of ourself and our surroundings has been put onto another track. So it's like, here's our normal consciousness. Well, all of a sudden, if we dissociate, it means that our consciousness kind of splits, and we can have two or more. So I'm sure the thing that you're thinking of is DID, dissociative identity disorder. That is a dissociative disorder. Like the movie Split, it means that there's been a split in consciousness, which means that those different personalities are all on their own kind of track. Okay, so this word is first introduced in this unit because to explain hypnosis, we use the word dissociation, which means that you are split on different levels of consciousness. So, for instance, this could explain pain control when somebody's hypnotized. That they don't feel it, they don't feel the pain, but they definitely detect something. So I think the example in the book talks about putting your hand in a very cold bath of ice water. It feels very cold but not painful, so that they actually dissociate from the pain through that split consciousness. And then selective attention can also come into play there as well. So I just wanted to start off with that dissociation. So I do want you to cover that word in your homework, and you probably already have. But that's it for hypnosis. The rest of this video is going to focus mainly on sleep and dreams. Now, one of the big parts of sleep before you actually get into the sleep stages is that of the circadian rhythm. We talked about this at length in class, but in case you missed it or you weren't here, your circadian rhythm is your 24-hour biological clock. So it's your body's, your body knows to be awake during the daytime and asleep during nighttime. Okay, that is an internal like alarm clock that you have, that your body feels up and aroused, and then it gets tired. It used to be that the sunlight was our only indicator of our what kind of dictated our circadian rhythm, but now we have light bulbs and artificial light and things like that kind of mess with our circadian rhythm. So even though the sun goes down, we can stay up all night because of light. And what happens is when light actually enters your eye, if you scroll down, if you look at the figure 5.2 in the ebook, this talks about your pineal gland, which releases your sleepy hormone called melatonin. So the reason why having screens on and lights on at night can be disruptive to your circadian rhythm is because when your pineal gland, which works with your hypothalamus, when that detects light entering your eyes, it'll actually stop making the melatonin, which is responsible for making you feel sleepy. So if you've got lights on, if you've got screens right up at your face, then and you're not feeling sleepy, it's probably because you're upsetting your circadian rhythm, and you think that your body thinks that it's time to be awake. So if you're going to go to bed, it's helpful to put away your devices and turn out your lights and get your body producing that melatonin from the pineal gland and get ready for sleep. Another thing that can really mess with your circadian rhythm, we talked about it, is jet lag. That's when you travel in an airplane or a jet to a different time zone and your body is on a different circadian rhythm than the local time zone. So if you went to Europe, they're 10 hours ahead of us. It could be time for you to go to bed. In Europe, they're just getting started in the morning. Same thing with China. China, I believe, is an exact 12-hour time difference from us. And just think about that. If you traveled on a plane, you are actually, within a matter of hours, you're gonna put your body on a totally different circadian rhythm. So that's called jet lag, when you're really, really tired, when it's time to go to sleep, but it's daylight out and everybody's trying to, live their lives and start their day. So to kind of review the reason why we know all this stuff, let's jump into sleep now, about sleep and your brain activities, because of an EEG. Okay, an EEG is something that measures brain waves. You remember that from Unit 3. So when people are hooked up to an EEG, they can actually measure the sleep stages by the brain activity. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of these different waves here in a second. So let's just go through the stages of sleep. Okay, now the book doesn't really separate the stages of sleep. Kind of. So if you refer to the PowerPoint presentation I have in our Canvas page, but I'm going to go ahead and there's essentially about 5 stages of sleep. Stages 1 through 4, we call those non-REM sleep stages. You'll see this NREM. So stages 1 through 4 fall under that REM, that non-REM category. Okay, stages 1 through 2 are going to be your light stages of sleep. Okay, stage 1 is actually going to be your sleep onset, meaning that you're not actually asleep yet, but you're about to fall asleep. Your brain waves are producing, your brain is producing what's called alpha waves, and the book does a pretty good job of showing you the different waves in figure 5.4. Your alpha waves are going to be similar to, it's going to be like a relaxed but awake state. So when you're in stage 1, it's going to be very similar to alpha waves of a relaxed state. Stage 2, you are going to be actually asleep. It's still very light sleep. And what's happened now with the EEG, with the brain waves, if you have these things called sleep spindles. They are brief bursts of brain activity. Okay, very characteristic of stage 2 sleep. If you haven't taken your quizzes yet, you will see that question a lot. Stage 3 and 4 are your deep stages of sleep, often called delta sleep. It's called delta sleep because the waves that are produced by the brain during the deep sleep are called delta waves. They are large, slow waves called delta waves. Okay, so know the difference. Know the alpha waves are those of a relaxed state in light sleep, and then delta waves are going to be your deep sleep. Okay, that's now you need your deep sleep for, if you look ahead in the unit about sleep theories, one of the reasons why we think we sleep is to regenerate and to grow and things like that. That happens all during our deep sleep. So make sure that you are achieving your deep sleep. It happens early in the night, and then what happens later in the night is something called REM sleep. This is REM, REM. This is going to be your dream stage. All right. Anytime you see REM sleep on a test, on a quiz, you need to immediately think of dreaming. All right. So what's happening is your eyes are darting back and forth very quickly. It's what's called rapid eye movement. Now, the brain waves are very similar to alpha waves, probably because your REM sleep occurs after you've cycled back through your sleep stages, back to stage 1, but it's its own stage. So in figure 5.6, you see that REM sleep happens kind of in the stage 1 realm, but it's not stage 1 sleep. It's its own stage. And as you sleep throughout the night, your REM sleep actually increases. Okay? And what's interesting, a very popular question is that REM sleep is called your paradoxical sleep. This means that two things are occurring at the same time that shouldn't be, or that are opposites. It's kind of similar to an oxymoron is what a paradox is. So the paradox with REM sleep is that your brain is super active. Your brain is very, very, very busy dreaming. But at the same time, that paradox is the body is very still. In fact, the brain produces a chemical that actually temporarily paralyzes your body so that it can't move. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about REM sleep a little bit later. So the sleep theories, I'm not going to spend that much time on those, but I did want to look at sleep disorders. Now, we did cover these in class a lot, but I'll talk about them real quick. The 4 big sleep disorders that you need to know. The first one is insomnia. This is going to be the difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep. People can be up for days if they have diagnosed insomnia. It does not mean that just because you didn't sleep last night, you can go around saying you have insomnia. No, this is a medically diagnosed disorder of people that can't sleep. They want to sleep, but they just can't. So medicine that could be prescribed may be, no, I want to talk about that with narcolepsy. Excuse me. So let's jump to the next one. Narcolepsy. This is going to be sleep attacks, meaning you could fall asleep or be overwhelmed with sleepiness at any given time. So it really is kind of like the opposite of insomnia. So you could be simply just feeling drowsy and sleepy all the time to actually falling into a deep sleep because of narcolepsy. This is often treated with amphetamines, which are stimulants that are going to try to keep the person awake. All right, the next one, very common. This is sleep apnea. All right, sleep apnea, very common in older, overweight males. Usually it's loud snoring. That is a characteristic of sleep apnea. It sounds like somebody is just gasping for air, and that's what's happening. Sleep apnea, they are not breathing during the night, so they go through these little spells where they aren't breathing, and then all of a sudden the loud snoring is actually them just gasping for air. Okay, so they're snorting in air for a few seconds, and this repeats. It could be hundreds of times a night. So if somebody complains of being cranky and sleepy, and if they are overweight, then perhaps they're not getting, a good night's sleep because of their sleep apnea. Okay? The last sleep disorder that we're going to look at is night terrors. Okay? These are going to be mostly in children during the stage 4 sleep. So they are not dreaming. A night terror is not a nightmare. A night terror is a physiological it's characteristic of physiological changes, doubling of heart and breathing rates, and the children appear terrified, but they don't recall them, so they're not a nightmare. It's not like, oh my god, that was such a scary dream. They're just called night terrors because it looks like the person has seen their biggest fear. Like that's how their body is responding, but they're actually asleep and they don't remember any of it. So as usual, I went right about till my time limit on the video, so I'm going to have to do a video on dreams and dream theory. So look for that video next. Thank you.